Everyone, this is Richard, and welcome to Den of Iniquity. This is the very first funnel we're running in the Gaunt Marches series, and we've got 8 wonderful teenage villagers who have made their way out to a house in the woods. They're on their way out of the Gaunt Marches sort of central village of Goatbridge. They are off to explore the large, wider world, and with the inn in Goatbridge having recently been burned to the ground by a group of misfit adventurers because you can't trust adults to do anything, this group of 8 teenagers was sort of left to have their last hurrah at an old house about a few hours outside of town. They spent most of last session sort of hiking out to the house and got there a little bit before sunset. And what I'd like to know from them, because we have a new player joining us, Andy, what I'd like to know from them, and both for my sake and for Andy's sake, what do you remember about last session, and what would you love to see happen in this particular session?
I guess I'll start. I remember that the Thatcher Halleck, when he was approaching the manor that we're staying in, decided to cut some of the foliage to reveal the underbrush or what was underneath it, and discovered that he's in fact, their yard, the area surrounding the manor, is actually a graveyard, and it came at a time where it had recently become very dark and it started raining, so it's time. We didn't really have much time to investigate beyond that.
Right. Now, you'd also all thought that this manor was abandoned, and when you got here, what did you learn? Worthington, you were the one who sort of found this manor, thought it was abandoned, and not only met the groundskeeper, but heard a name. What did you learn last time?
Yeah, so, I'd been here before, at least close to it, and I had heard some music before, but still thought it was abandoned. As we approached, we started hearing the music, and we also noticed the groundskeeper's little hut had smoke coming out of the chimney. So a few of us approached the hut, which before we could even knock on the door, the groundskeeper opened it up. He seemed to recognize our little noble Emil, and basically, told us that we could stay in the house, that the lady of the house was gone. Although when we tried bringing up that there was music, he said something, well, maybe they're back, and I just didn't know it. But he told us the door was unlocked and that there were plenty of rooms, that just find a place to rest for the evening, and he'd bring breakfast and more blankets and stuff in the morning. Last I remember, we went in. The doors were kind of difficult to open. A different music started playing when we went in, so a group of us kind of went towards investigating that, which kind of led us to a root cellar or basement or something. And another group decided they would go to the kitchen and see if they could get some food.
Okay.
And that's about it.
All right. And you guys had not gone the stairs in the basement. You just sort of found the back hallway with the entrance to the basement. Another group had gone to check out where the kitchen was. And what did that group find?
Difficult to open the door, and somebody slipped in a very thick, viscous liquid.
Yeah, the liquid may even have been reddish, if I recall.
Did you get that door open?
Yes.
Okay. And
I believe we did anyway.
Okay. And what was on the other side of that door?
I think we just kind of cut it there. I think it might have been like a dining room or parlor, but I can't remember quite well.
Map out. Okay. Any other specific memories, things you want to bring up from last time?
I remember the guy we saw on the way here who had something squirming around in his sack. He's kind of carrying a big sack over his shoulder, and there was something in there.
And he was headed out to the old abandoned, the village that drowned. The village that had been for centuries, almost a millennia. It had been reclaimed from the swamp and it had been drained swampland. And all of a sudden, one night in the middle of the fog around the spring equinox, only a few months ago, everybody woke up and nobody was in that village anymore. The village had just been drowned. But people said if you were in the forest at night, you could see lights coming from off in the direction of Swineford. And just so that we're clear on the meta level, you can find out more about Swineford in all sorts of Gaunt March's adventures. And who was headed back to the back where they'd sort of like seen all the doors and including the door the door under the stairs. Who was headed back that way?
I think it was the couple that is no longer here with us.
Yeah.
Worthington, the couple, and then I think is it Nurse? Was it Nurse or?
Yeah, Nurthus was definitely the.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think Halleck went with the kitchen group.
Halleck was the one who slipped.
Emil followed Nurthus to the back room area.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Killian went with the group going to the kitchen.
Yes. I think we found some kind of ballroom or something. A big sort of party space or...
Right? The group that wanted to head toward the kitchen had found the door coming up, the liquid coming from the door. And I believe you were just about to open the door. Does that sound about right? Where you were in the midst of opening the door?
I think it was pretty much like got the door open and he slipped.
Right. At about that time, you guys had lit, it was a cloudy day with the sun going down. That meant there was even less light. So you guys had gotten in and lit several candelabras. Who was holding the candelabras? I think there was one with each group. And there's several just sort of around sort of the main entryway.
Yeah, I know Tolan had a candle. I think maybe Halleck might have had Halleck or Killian might have had a candelabra.
Okay.
And then I think one of the couple that aren't here anymore,
right,
carrying it.
And who was with the group sort of going off to find the kitchen again?
That would be, I think, Tolan, Killian.
Gotcha.
And Halleck.
Okay. Thank you. And Tolan, is it okay? Sorry, Killian, is it okay if we say you have that candelabra? Is that good with you?
Yeah, that works.
All right. And about the time you opened the door, as if it sort of created a draft itself, air sort of flowed through the open front door that had taken you a long time to sort of wedge open. And it just slams. For the sake of sort of just positioning, Andy, I'm going to put Ifield and Zzarchov into the main entryway. And this is a 2-story, big old-fashioned manor house. As soon as you walk in, there's a grand marble staircase going up to the 2nd floor. There's several rows of doors to the left and the right of the entryway. And then there's a long hallway behind the staircase, and that's where the group following the music went. And then they also saw a door that probably led down to the cellar. Emil knew that was pretty much the typical place you would put a door that led down to the cellar on the back of a staircase, because no one wants to see the cellar door. But right now, everybody has sort of been clustered around or moving around this sort of big grand entryway. One group wanted to find the kitchen but didn't know where to go. One group wanted to figure out where the music was coming from. That group did open the door where they were hearing the music. And they found themselves in a ballroom. And that's kind of immediately behind the staircase. So the group that headed towards the back opened up. And the ballroom had sort of a stage in the center where you might guess musicians kind of clustered. There are still some music stands on the stage. Also, you're guessing to sort of give the room a sense of space or to make it appear bigger. It seems to be just in the faint light coming from the candelabra lined with mirrors. And there's sort of curtains draped over the mirrors to sort of add some depth to that. And then there's a dense set of curtains over what has to be the back wall of the house. So there must be a window back there because there's a dense set of curtains blocking it. The group who fell in the entryway outside the door that had sort of the red viscous liquid coming out from under it. You opened that door, correct?
Halleck did, and we
Okay.
yeah we did.
And I think as soon as Halleck did that, you heard the sound of someone just depressing a key on an organ. Is what it sounded like. It sounded like somebody just hit some of the keys on an organ. They weren't even playing it. And you just heard the pipes whistle loudly. And that's when sort of the wind swept through the house and blew the front door shut with a very loud bang. Standing in that entryway hall, in Ifield and Edwarsu, you can sort of move over. You can see both groups of people because they both have candelabras. There's candelabras sort of at various points along the entryway. Most of them just sitting on the floor or on the steps because there's not really much entryway furniture to put things on. The entryway is pretty barren other than being very decorated with marble. But you lit a bunch of the candelabras, and so the entryway is pretty well lit. The group who's supposed to be looking for the kitchen is standing over to your right. And ahead of you, sort of behind the stairs, is the group that went to search out the source of the music. And as soon as that ballroom door opened, the music stopped. You heard what sounded like somebody smashing, and the music coming from the back of the house sounded like a dulcimer or a set of stringed instruments or something. The music you were hearing in the forest sounded like organ music, and that's what sounded as soon as you opened that door off to your right. And there's only one door to the right. And as soon as that opened, you heard that sound of somebody just sort of like screwing around in an organ, or organ pipes just like evacuating air. And let's shift focus just briefly to the group who opened that door, as well as Ifield and Edwarsu, who can see that from where they're standing. you see inside that room, the first thing you see is kind of on a pedestal is a big stone bowl, almost like a font of some sort, or a cistern that you would keep water in. And that's what's clearly overflowing with the viscous liquid that ran out from under the door. It's not burbling or anything, but it's clearly the source of the viscous liquid that has been dripping down the side of that pedestal and is kind of running towards the door very slowly and pooling very, very slowly there. It's very viscous. It may not be red. It may just be that the candlelight you're looking at it in makes everything look red because you don't have any direct sunlight or anything to sort of give it color. There's also several benches in this room, sort of arranged kind of away from the pedestal. And at the far side of the room, closer to the front of the house, there's a large table with draping on it. And it seems to have several like pieces of statuary on it. You can't really make out what they are. I mean, you've got one candelabra just sort of at the front. It's about 20, 30 feet from you. So, and then towards the back of that room, away from that table, is what looks like a heavily curtained organ. You can't really see the keyboard portion of the organ or the pedals or anything. That seems to be behind a small curtain area, but you can see the pipes kind of emanating out of the area like an organ should be, and the pipes seem large enough that you'd be able to hear them for some distance in the emptiness of the swamp. What does that group do? And Iffield and Edwarso, you're also sort of standing right next there. And where is Killian, by the way?
Killian was coming up from behind the others. Okay.
Well, so Killian is with the ballroom or with the
ballroom, yeah, kind of okay. Behind.
I wanted since we have one person who's uncommitted who wants Killian to teach her about love. I wanted to make sure we knew where Killian was. And Tolan is Tolan the Wise.
I thought Killian was in the group going towards the kitchen, right?
Yes, is that not the same group?
No, the group in the ballroom is not the group headed towards the kitchen.
Yeah. I thought we went to look for the kitchen and wound up in a ballroom. I guess I had that wrong.
The ballroom was at the back area before we found the way down.
And okay. you guys were in the main entry trying to like figure out which door led to somewhere like a kitchen.
Yeah, I don't think we quite figured out what was on the other side of that door.
Yeah. All right. So Killian's with the group in the ballroom, and Emil is with the other group.
Okay. And Tolan the Wise is with which group?
Tolan is looking for the kitchen.
Okay. So Tolan and Emil are in that sort of, we'll just call it a chapel-like space, since it's got benches and a cistern and an organ.
Well, Anzwaru is definitely hightailing it into that room because it looks like there might be something valuable and sellable there, like some sort of bric-a-brac that he can pawn off on people. So, he's gonna head right in and try and examine the statuary.
Are you grabbing a light source as you go, or are you trying to like lead other people? Because that table with the statuary is about 20 feet from the door, kind of close to the front of the house.
He's going to grab the first light source that.
There are several. Yeah.
Grabbing like a candle or.
There's candelabras.
You said there were candelabras? Yeah, he'll grab a candelabra and just head right in before anyone else can get there.
You hear there might be antiquities, and you go right in.
Yeah.
There are
just kind of. Tolan just kind of whistles and, looking in, and he's just like, What kind of rich person has their own church inside their house?
Yeah, it does seem to look temple-like, or at least like the public gathering hall of a temple. Yeah. And there, there's a reading stand near the big table at the front, which is sort of embedded into the wall. You you get up to the front there, Endwarsu, and sitting on the altar, or sitting on that main table, are just two dominant statues. I mean, there's a few others that seem to be more, an inexpensive wood, maybe with a nice polish. But there are two beautifully painted statues of a naked man and a naked woman who seem to be closely related. They both have sort of very similar facial features. They're in a quasi-realistic style, so it's easy to see they both have high cheekbones and big arched eyebrows, and dark hair. And sort of both of them have painted red lips, and both of them are completely naked, and they are sort of holding their hands out the way you might see a ruler hold out their hands in a painting over all their dominion. And really it's what they're holding their hands out over are all these other little simple wooden figures, much more crude. There's a nice polish work on it, but there's not a lot of detail on the figures. Mm-hmm. And they're sort of like either lying prone or bending over low or kneeling.
Are there any like specific, really distinguishing marks or something that's been put on these little statuettes? Or are they just vague, indistinguishable, people-ish shapes?
Are you kind of picking them up and looking at it? How are you looking for?
Actually, yeah. I'm gonna pick a statuette up, examine it around, look at the bottom to see if there's a mark on the base. See if there's any differences between them by turning them around.
Why don't you roll with wisdom? It sounds like you're trying to discern some realities.
All right.
And again, I completely trust all of you. So if you prefer not to use your own dice rather than roll for your party, that's completely fine with me.
Well, that's a 5.
Wow. Okay. You're sitting there, sort of looking at this statue, and you pick them up and you look at the base. And it strikes you that like a lot of statues of nobles that you've peddled before, mm-hmm. these seem to be flattering. It would not be unusual to have somebody much better looking actually pose for the statue and then just put the noble's face on it. These are definitely realistic but idealized. Kind of like Greek statue. Mm-hmm.
These are the big statues and statuettes.
These are. I mean, they're not big, as in you can't carry them. You can still pick them up. They're,
gotcha.
But they are definitely like the well-painted ones that are meant to be dominant on top of the table. And the painting is quite extraordinary. Probably also expensive. And at the base of one of them, it says, at the base of the woman statue, it says Cynthia, and at the base of the other one, it says Soma. That's Cintia and Soma. And they look remarkably alike. And then for a second, everybody inside the chapel smells the smell. I mean, you don't see it. You don't see any smoke, and you don't see a source for this, but you smell almost a sickly sweet incense smell. Like it's some sort of burning wood, like the smell of a very, very sickly sweet oil or burning resin or something like that. And it's almost sugary. It's so sweet, or honeyish. It's so sweet. But it's got that sort of like heavy smell of like a resin or roses. It's not a well done incense, but it's the kind of incense that just has all the smells everybody says they want to smell. But it is heavy and cloying and sugary. And then, who's standing where in the chapel while Enzwaru is looking at the statues?
Yeah, well, he's looking at the statues. Tolan kind of comes in and tries to do his best not to step in the liquid if he can.
Right.
But he goes up to that pedestal, and especially once he starts smelling the incense, he brings the candle closer to the bowl and trying to get a better look at it, and even dips a couple fingers in and brings it up to try and smell it. But also when he's coming in, he's telling
and Tolan, as soon as you dip your fingers into that bowl, for a second it's like you reached in and touched tar. And you feel at the tips of your fingers someone else's hand sort of rub, stroke your hand. And then in the reflection of the bowl, you see this rather regal, powerful looking woman with very dark hair. Or maybe it's just the light, who knows? It looks like she has really dark hair. And she's imitating your emotion, like she's dipping her, like, it's like you're watching your reflection, but it's her. It's and for a second your hand just sort of adheres to the liquid, and then you feel the tar-like liquid starting to heat up. And all of you standing in the chapel hear sounds of somebody moving around immediately overhead, like someone is upstairs from the chapel, and they're crossing the room or stepping or walking or something. And let's go to the ballroom. Ifield, where are you headed? Were you headed off to find Killian? Were you going to stand in the hallway? Were you...
So the front door slammed shut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ithiel is going to check that out because she's actually being sensible.
Okay. So you're looking at that, and I'm going to move back to the ballroom real quick.
Mhm.
Where I know Worthington, Killian, and Nerthus were there, or was Nerthus with Halleck?
No, nothing's just going to the back ballroom.
Okay. So the three of you are in this room. Killian, you know something about magic.
Killian would be in the other place then, because it
Okay.
was Emil that followed Nerthus.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, so Emil is here with Nerthus and Worthington. Emil, this ballroom is a wreck. It has clearly not been used in a substantial period of time. And now that you've opened the door, there doesn't seem to be any music coming, nor are there any instruments on that stage. There's just some sheet music or something that's just sort of like sitting on a music stand. It's hard to see, it's about 15 feet into the room and you're looking at it through, a lot of candlelight, but still just candlelight. And Emil, I don't know how to tell you this. That whole that trick where you put mirrors along the wall and then put curtains over them to add depth. Poor nobles do that. To sort of hide that, their ballroom is not particularly very large. You can tell this ballroom goes against the back of the house. And you should be able to see out a back window about 30 feet from you. But that back window seems to be covered with the same sort of heavy curtains that are sort of like draped around the mirrors. Now, the ones around the mirrors are pulled back, but the ones over the back window seem to be thickly sort of like draped against that window. What are the three of you doing? And you did hear just now the door slam. And it sounded like somebody was screwing around with the organ somewhere, but they stopped. There aren't any musical instruments in this room. And you were definitely hearing music from here.
I think Worthington kind of mutters under his breath of, "Don't like this." He doesn't have a candle or anything, but he might be a little jumpy or something because he's always, his hand is kind of on his knife. But
Sure.
he'll try and kind of quietly slip in and kind of move to the side, maybe where there's more shadow or something, and kind of go further in. He figures there has to be someone in there, but they're hiding from him for some reason.
I think Nerthus would actually walk further in towards the maybe towards the rear of the room, just to get towards the outdoor or the window or I don't know if it's a doorway.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
With the idea that like if someone is hiding back there, so there's the herd logic, then they would probably want to move if I was approaching them. Like if Nerthus was heading right for them, then maybe the other two people in this room would take note of someone moving and retreat.
And Emil, what are you up to?
Emil kind of sort of follows Nerthus in somewhat reluctantly with his candles. He sort of looks around at the space and expresses disdain. This room is sad. This room makes me sad. We should look for the kitchen.
All right. You clearly are not any. This is not a kitchen-like room. There are not any doors in this room other than the door you came in from the main hallway. Or there's. But you're sort of looking for people, correct, Worthington? Or you were sort of searching the room kind of quietly. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, he's just trying to go, as unnoticed as possible. Like, if somebody's hiding, what's the reason for that? And if they, try and jump out or whatever, he, they might not notice him, but notice someone else.
And sort of, how are you are you just sort of standing guard, or are you actually kind of moving among the curtains to look for people?
Yeah, I moved to kind of like the more shadowy areas and just kind of moving from darker shadow to darker shadow, looking, because I figure in this darker room it'll be easier to see someone the closer I get to them.
So it sort of sounds like you're trying to discern if anybody's here.
Yeah.
So why don't you roll with Wiz?
Okay. All my stats are easy because they're all +0. I got a 6.
You're sort of moving in, and I think you see something, Worthington, and you move closer, and that's when I think you feel the dusty, grimy, old velvet right around your neck. Iffield, you're at the front door, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's slammed. What are you looking at? What are you looking for? What are you or what are you trying to determine, or what are you trying to do?
So first, I'm trying to figure out if I can get it open. Like, what's holding it in place? Is the door locked now? Whatever may have locked it. Is there a way to can I work at the hinges and maybe try and get that open? It's trying to figure out what's going on here.
Give me 1 second.
Because she knows it's pretty bad that the front door just shut on us.
What did you roll with Wiz, Iffield?
All right. 7.
Ask me one question from the Discern Realities list. The move list is in the player folder. It's called the Gaunt Marches move list. We use the one from Perilous Wilds instead of the one from Adventure World Main.
It's the one here in the folder.
Yeah.
What should I be looking out for?
What you should be looking out for is things that move like the wind, because this door did not only swing to because the wind came through the house. The lock on the door has closed. Which does not happen. The bolt on the door is closed, which does not happen. And it's one of those sort of inside the door bolts that fancy, wealthy people have.
Yeah.
It's not like ones you might see at your home where you just sort of put the bar across the door. It's the kind of thing that might it requires a key. I mean, how much fancier are you going to get? And I think you also should be on the lookout for whoever's opening doors, because the door immediately, it's now to your right because you're facing the other way, but the door that was immediately on your left when you walked in, there were two on your left and one on your right.
And the one on the right is like the chapel?
That's the chapel one.
Okay.
The one closest to the front on the left was not ajar when you walked in. It is now. And you really can't tell what you're hearing, but you do hear something kind of rumbling within, very lowly.
Okay, I'm gonna try and call people back because there's a door open down there.
I think all of you are not too far away that you would not hear Iffield's call.
And then there's Worthington.
But Worthington and who was it who was dipping their hand into the basin? Emil? Or not Emil. Poland. Oh, Josh. Josh, I'd like. Let's have a Worthington. If you want to move away, you're going to need to sort of defy danger, and I want you to tell me what you're doing as you feel this sort of thing wrap around your neck. And it's really the same way as you feel the basin of this viscous liquid heat up. What are you doing to sort of? Are you going to just let it go, or are you going to try to yank your hand out? Everybody else, including both of your characters, hears Iffield cry out to try to get everybody back in the main room. What do you say? Sorry, I should have asked that before. Iffield, what do you say?
I'm gonna say there's another door open down here.
Okay.
Come and help me.
All right.
It's kind of stupid to go and poke around it in the jar door by yourself.
So you all hear that. None of you are far enough away that you can't hear Iffield cry out, and you're in a big echoey, chamber that actually goes up to the second story. So anybody in this house could probably hear you crying out, as far as you know. But Worthington and Tolan are both in a kind of awkward situations.
Yeah, so...
And Dwarsu also has those statues still in his hands. So let's start with Worthington. What are you doing? You feel like you're stalking along, and all of a sudden there's this, amid this sort of grimy, dusty curtains, and all of a sudden there's grimy, dusty velvet around the front of your neck.
Yeah, so Worthington, like I said, he's beer or something, but he had his hand on his knife anyway, and feeling that around his neck, maybe he doesn't recognize it immediately that it's the curtain, but whatever it is, he immediately pulls his knife and kind of, obviously he would feel like which way it's coming around. So he's going to try and cut the curtain with his knife.
Why don't you defy danger with strength and tell me how you do?
Okay. 8.
8. You get a sense that if you get your knife under there, and whatever it's under is about to pull the entire curtain rod down on top of you. And that's when you see what you thought you saw in the mirror. Which is a dark figure that's standing almost exactly opposite you on the other side of the mirror. That seems to be moving independently of you. And it's hard to make out in the flickering candlelight and the heavy curtains and the shadows. Are you going to pull this curtain down on top of your head, severing the link around your neck, or are you going to wait and see what this has to show you?
I think he's, I said he's a bit jumpy and whatnot, so I think he's going to continue trying to sever it.
You sever it, and the entire thing collapses on you. And as as it falls, there's a weird pattern of light coming from the candelabra Emil is holding. And you see for a second, there's a man who looks somewhat like you. Somewhat like you, maybe slightly older, maybe just a little more unshaven or unkempt. And he has some sort of like one of those curtain sashes, but it's sort of shaped into sort of a leash or a noose, and it's around his neck. And he has something in his mouth, so he can't cry out. And as the curtain falls, you see someone tug on the leash or noose, and he sort of moves backward in line with it. And then the curtain falls on top of you. I'd like you to roll any die and tell me whether you get high or low.
So say that again on what I'm rolling.
You're going to roll any die and just tell me whether you get high or low on the die.
Okay. 3 out of 6. So
3 out of 6, so low, yeah. Yeah, you take 1 point of damage as the curtain rod just sort of smashes into your head above. And it takes you a moment to sort of extract yourself from this sort of tangle of velvet curtains. Emil and Nerthus, you were back there with him as he went stalking in the shadows, and all of a sudden pulled with his knife one of the curtain rods down on himself. What do you do?
I yell at him. I'm like, "What are you doing? Lady of the house is not going to like you pulling the curtains down like that."
Nerthus?
Yeah, I think Nerthus would probably run over and see what he tripped on. Assuming he tripped on something.
He's clearly stabbed one of the curtains, but other than that, there's not anything that clearly. There's nothing under Worthington's feet. But it looks like when he stabbed one of the curtains, it just pulled the curtain rod down, just the swing of it. And he's got a little bit of a shiner on his forehead, or a little bit of a lump on his forehead, just slight. Tolan. So what does everybody who's not Tolan in the chapel do when they hear Ifield cry out?
Anzwaru is just going to awkwardly turn around, still holding the statues, frozen in a moment of indecision, and looking to Tolan.
Tolan, you're dipping your hand in the bowl. What are Killian and Halleck doing?
I imagine Halleck would kind of be worried about what's happening to well, Tolan is the one with a hand in the bowl, right? So he's probably concerned that that's gonna that there's something going on there, and I don't know that he really was like taking an alarm to the guy in the main corridor.
Iffield?
Iffield, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he'll, if anything, he'll probably go to Tolan's aid at this point, see if he can help him out.
So Iffield, how obvious is your crush on Killian?
I'm gonna say her crush is
Or your short-term fixation, whatever you call it.
She has like no good idea how to really express it. So like I think it probably alternates between like not at all, total indifference, and like really, really obvious.
Okay. Killian, you're not a total dummy. You are a hedge wizard, very trained in magic, and this woman who clearly either hates you or really likes you, it's hard to tell, but is definitely not indifferent to you, is calling out in the hallway. But Halig and Tolan seem to be messing with the basin. What are you doing?
Can I see what's happening to Tolan? That there's something around his neck, or?
Oh no, that was Worthington in the other room.
Oh, so he's just sort of got his hand in it and is.
Yeah, he was kind of dipping his fingers in, and you can't see anything. Nothing that Tolan experience is visible to you or audible to you, unless Tolan starts narrating or saying something. So what are you doing?
I guess I'm dipping. I know. I heard the scream from the front hallway.
Well, not the scream, like a call for assistance.
Yeah, and it seems like no one else is really interested, so I'm going to go see what's going on in the front hall.
All right. And Tolan, what are you doing? You felt that other hand in the bowl. It's starting to heat up.
Yeah, I try and quickly pull my fingers out of the liquid.
Why don't you defy danger with dexterity?
All right. And that's a 6.
Oh, man. Tolan. The hand you felt that was oddly sort of like sensual when it initially brushed your hand now reaches up and grabs your fingers and is very strong. And all of a sudden, your hand is deep into that basin. Both Tolan and Halig, you can smell all of a sudden intensifying that sickly sweet incensey smell that almost, and it's starting to actually take on the scent of like burning honey, not like cooking honey, which it smelled like before, but like blackening, burning honey that has fallen onto a log or a burner of some sort, like burning sugar smell, and that's starting to sort of creep into everything else. What do you do?
All right. First, with my hand getting jerked in like that, probably kind of freak out and, with my other hand, try and push the bowl off the pedestal and hoping that, if it falls to the floor, then it can't keep pulling me down.
Halig, what are you doing? This is clearly something has gone very wrong, and Killian has just walked out of the room.
I think. Oh yeah, you're asking Halig, or
just got dropped out. What just happened?
Sorry. So Tolan's hand just got, it was being sort of like petted from the other side of the reflection in the bowl. That none of the rest of you saw. Only Tolan saw that. But all of a sudden, something grabbed the fingers that he was dipping into the bowl and pulled his hand in. You didn't see the hand, anything grab his fingers. You didn't see any force. You've not seen any reflection, Halleck. You just saw his hand just sort of plunge into the bowl uncontrollably. And he seems upset, like he's trying to knock the bowl off the pedestal. What are you doing?
I mean, I'll probably end up going closer to him and just like trying to figure out if he's faking it to just get a rise out of me or something, because I don't think he understands what's going on fully yet.
So why don't we start by Tolan, why don't you roll with strength? You're defying danger.
Okay. Ooh. That'll be a 10.
Nice. Your hand is covered in sort of a warm, blackish red ichor, but you pull it out, and the bowl goes in the basin, whatever it is, just goes crashing to the floor, and the blackish red ichor just starts to spread out over the floor. And as it does, it starts to bubble, but you have got your hand free. Though your arm is sort of covered in this blackish red goo. What do the two of you do? And it's starting to like bubble on the floor where the bowl broke. In fact, oh, go ahead, Tolan.
I think like Tolan just immediately, the closest thing to him is probably Halleck, and kind of grabs Halleck's shirt or cloak or whatever he's wearing and starts trying to like wipe his hand on it, and just, this isn't no chapel. There got to be worship of some kind of demon. Something was pulling my hand into that, and look at it. It's bubbling on the floor.
Halleck, are you backing away? Are you giving him a portion of your cloak? What are you doing?
Yeah, I guess he'll like take. Yeah, he'll like give him some of the cloak to wipe it off on, and just be like, "This is gross. I don't know what makes you think this is okay." And he's like, but he wants he wants to make sure that this bubbling stuff isn't. He's like, keep on the lookout. This stuff is moving towards us. I slipped on it once already.
What, you expect me to leave this stuff on my hand after what just happened?
And Swaru, Ifield, and Killian are back in the main hall. I do believe.
I kind of had an internet hiccup there, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I kind of had an internet hiccup, but yeah, cool.
Yeah. So you're back in the main hall. Killian and Swaru have come out. Ifield, of that room. Nobody's come out of the back room yet. It sounds like they broke something. Or not something terrible. It sounds like a curtain rod or something fell.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I think the first words out of Ifield's mouth are probably just me like, hi, doors, wind thing, doors open. Mostly directed at Killian.
Killian?
Looking a little bit confused, and then says, "Why don't you come with us? There's some cool things in this house. A bowl of some kind of pudding or something in the other room, spilled all over the floor."
And that's why I think you guys hear the break But Killian, I think it's not hard for you to notice now that that door that Ifield is pointing to was not open when you guys entered the main hallway.
Okay, I think I'd say something like, "Oh, I see what you mean."
Yeah, there are things on the wind that are opening doors and closing them.
Could be anything opens a door. Let's go take a look.
Yeah. And by the way, how heavy are those statues?
They're both a handful. I mean, you wouldn't be able to juggle them without a lot of practice.
I mean, like in terms of load or whatnot.
Each is one load.
I think Enzwarer has very, very coolly stuffed them both in his rucksack,
Okay.
awkwardly or whatnot.
Okay. So are you guys going into that door that's open, or are you going to round up other people? What are the three of you doing again? I'm sorry.
I mean, Ifield has enough help. She's ready to get going and check it out.
Killian, is that all right with you?
Yeah. If she's not going to open the door, Killian will. So
Okay.
No, I mean she's willing to open the door. She was just caught up in explaining things to
Oh
the
my God, you
unexpected person who
two.
showed up.
Are you both like opening? Are you both reaching for the handle at the same time?
Probably.
yes.
Okay.
Except that like she very, very quickly like draws back when she notices. Very obviously.
So he'll give her a funny look, and then just kind of, as he's still looking at her, just push the door open.
I think Killian, you had a candelabra with you, right?
Yes.
Answar also probably brought a candelabra along. As well as the rucksack bulging with statues.
Right. So this room has you open it. I think the dominant feature you see is you open this room. Is the fireplace. And right next to the fireplace is a rather sizable dartboard that has several darts in it that are pinning some, and the darts are pinning a piece of paper you can't quite make out from this distance to the board. There's also a table, like a big round table with some chairs around it and stuff on it. And then there's a cabinet for the far wall from where you're standing, which goes along the front wall of the house. There's a door and a cabinet. The doorway seems to lead further away from this room, so further towards the exterior of the house, or the let's call it the western wall of the house for simplicity's sake. And then on the other side of the fireplace, it would have been the dominant feature had it sort of not been, had it been in eye line when you first walked into the room, but you have to sort of pivot around to look at to see it, is a giant brown bear.
Alive? Dead?
It seems to not be moving, but it certainly posed like it's alive. It's got its arms up like it's about to like just pounce on you. Brown bears are not unknown in the swamp.
I think Answaru definitely gets startled and tries to segue into a sound of amazement and impressiveness that is way cooler than freaking out.
You're trying not to sound like. "Ah!"
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let your friends tell you how successful you are.
No.
It's not sounding like Killian. Killian, what is?
Just a stuffed bear. Look at it. It's not moving at all. Let's start a fire.
There is some dampish wood, and some twigs in a basket in one of those metal baskets by the fireplace.
Killian's going to go right to that and see if there's a fire to be made.
And do you have something to make a fire with, or do you need to sort of look around?
We just have the candelabra, and
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You know, living in an era of electric lights, I sometimes forget. Iffield, what is Iffield doing as a?
Yeah, this is this a like I think she's studying the bear to like is this a local bear? Is there anything unusual about the bear? Like what does like is there anything that she might know about this bear or like have heard about by talking with hunters in the village that makes it stand out? Or is it just the sort of thing you would find in a hunting lodge?
I'm going to have you spout some lore in a second. But yeah, go ahead and roll that spout lore and tell me what you get. And then I want to check in with the folks in the ballroom.
That is a total of 10.
So remind me that we're coming back to that as we get to the ballroom. I want to make sure I give you something useful. Ballroom folks, which I think is Nerthus and Emil and Worthington. Worthington has just pulled these curtains down on himself, and you were asking sort of what was happening. You heard somebody cry out from the hallway, from the main hall. You heard a pop of organ music, but it stopped, and then you hear a crash as if somebody knocked something over. These are not fast-paced, though, so it could just be the normal mishaps of teenagers exploring a house. That Emil, this could just be poor people touching things that they're not supposed to touch. Like they don't have. This is why you can't have nice things.
It's clearly what's happened to the curtain, and I'm letting Worthington know that pulling down curtains and cutting them apart is not suitable behavior for this sort of house, and I'm quite sure his family doesn't have the funds to reimburse the lady of the house for this, and he really ought to be more careful, and I'll go on at some length, letting him know.
Bloody thing wrapped itself around my neck. I was trying to free myself.
Maybe
Did you
keep
see
your
that
neck.
person? Did you see that person?
No,
Backed up.
saw no person but you, and I recommend you keep your neck well away from any other curtains.
Nerthus, what are you doing? You had walked over to Worthington to sort of check things out.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is like Nerthus might take the curtains and after finding out that you were okay and that you were arguing back with Emil, she might just like take some of the curtains and like maybe tear them a little, like because you did tear it, right, with a knife, or you just pulled it? You did tear it.
Yeah, you cut a big hole in one, or you cut a big slash in one of them, so they should be pretty easy to tear at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, plus they're pretty grimy, and once velvet gets grimy, it tears pretty easily.
Yeah, I think she's just gonna tear out some scraps just for salvage.
I don't think that really takes up a load. It's just some straps of cloth, correct? It is pretty dusty. But yeah, you've got several scraps of cloth. And are the three of you sort of heading back to the front of the house, or are you doing something else?
I mean, we could head back that way. I don't see why not. And there was some commotion, and this is kind of like a dead end.
Is there some other way to go to that we might look for the kitchen, or no?
It's pretty typical to put a kitchen in the back, but you're not seeing a door that sort of says kitchen door to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to sort of keep exploring? What are you kind of looking for that would tell you, hey, this way to the kitchen?
I mean, I don't think we see any doors at all, right? No passageways.
No, the back hallway has 5 doors along it on the south or the north side of the house, which is the back side, and then 2 doors on that back hallway, or there's 4 doors along the back hallway on the south facing doors.
Right.
And then there's that one door that goes under the stairs, clearly to the cellar.
So kitchen doors are servant doors.
Okay.
So I would be looking to see if I can see a distinction between the more well-dressed doors, well-painted, fancy inlays and fancier knobs, and the sort of lower, more work shift sort of functional doors.
So you're kind of going along the hallway, looking for a door that seems, that it's not, it's very functional. It's not designed for people to feel elegant when they're coming in and out of.
Right. Harder to see maybe for everybody else.
Right. There are several, if you go to facing the back of the house, if you go to the right of the ballroom, there are several very nice doors. If you go to the left of the ballroom, there's 2 fairly nice doors. One sort of in the back northwest corner of the house, and one sort of right by the gallery, kind of right where you guys came around the edge of the stairs. And then right next to the ballroom, there's a narrow little space that seems to have a little door attached to it, and then there's a larger space that has sort of a narrow door attached to it. I felt like that wasn't really necessarily a discern realities roll.
Okay, right. But one of those latter 2 seems like maybe be the promising direction.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of them is clearly attached to a larger space, and one is kind of one is kind of a narrower space.
I'll point to the one that's attached to the larger space and say to Worthington, if there's a kitchen here, that'll be it.
Worthington, Nerthus, what are you thinking?
So Worthington actually would have, he stayed in the ballroom because, since he saw that person in the mirror, he definitely thinks there's someone in there. So he kind of goes out to the floor and kind of positions himself.
That and this is just with Emil out of the room. What are you doing for light?
Like I said before, Worthington, since he's a scout, he's kind of used to being in the dark, but he does still have candles on him, so he might light one of them.
Light one of those candles.
Yeah. But he kind of positioned himself, like trying to get to the spot where he thinks he saw the person in the mirror to see if he can see any signs of them.
Nerthus, what about you?
Well, I think Nerthus would probably end up going in search of the kitchen as well with Emil.
Okay.
Probably deciding upon, I don't know, maybe the smaller of the 2 rooms. She doesn't have that good of judgment, so she would just whatever Emil says because he's familiar with this type of place.
Okay, so are you following Emil, or are you checking out the other room?
Following Emil.
Okay. So Emil, are you going into the door you assume is the kitchen?
Yeah. And on the way, I'm sort of lecturing Nerthus about not chopping up other people's curtains and taking the scraps for yourself.
It was garbage when it hit the floor, wasn't it?
It can be repaired. A good seamstress can repair almost anything. You hang on to those pieces; they'll want them back.
Not when I'm done with them.
So the two of you start to open that kitchen door, and it kind of opens about an inch, and then it hits something. It's clearly not big enough to stop you from opening the door, but it is sort of like offering some resistance. So you're making a little bit of a scraping sound. And it sounds almost metallic, the sound you're making as you push a little bit. Are you still going to try to open the door, or are you going to...
Yeah, I think so. I think once he kind of pushes it open and meets that resistance, he gets a little bit embarrassed that he couldn't do it, and so then tries all the harder to.
Yeah.
So he can open a door.
Yeah, I think Nerthus would probably aid him if it looked like he was like floundering in any way.
So let's have you do this. Emil. You push, and you're holding a candelabra, right, Emil?
Yep, that's right.
You push, and the light is sort of emptying out of the room, and the light, the first thing you're clearly able to make out in the light is like one of those big stoves, oven-style fireplaces. That's clearly got several little compartments on it for baking, and a stove attachment sort of set up next to it. And then you see something move near that fireplace, and in a split second it occurs to you as you're pushing on that door that something is flying to the opening you're making in that doorway. Something glinting and metallic and is moving quickly towards you. Ifid, sorry, I'm messing up people's names. Sorry. Ifield.
Yes, it's Spout Lore 10.
Yeah. There are a lot of bears in the swamp. They love eel. They love salmon. They love weirder things they pull out of the swamp. They love some of the swamp cephalopods. They love, swamp bee honey. They are voracious eaters of swamp cuisine. And then there's smaller species of black bear style bears up in the or off in the Kyrgyz Wood, sort of north of town. But none of them look quite like this. They don't have the coloration. They don't have the patterns on them. At least not near town. But then you remember people describing these sorts of bears as being pit fight bears in the old empire. and you can remember some lines of poetry. I think maybe that some people have inscribed on pottery before about, people being forced to fight these sort of large, majestic-looking bears in arenas and gladiatorial combat type thing. And they are definitely not local. And they're definitely incredibly difficult to kill. But they are also very prone to calming down if they don't see anything they want to eat or attack. Their motivations are eat, fucking fight, and if they're not seeing any of those to do, they tend to go to sleep. But this one's taxidermied and on a stand on the floor.
Well, I definitely spill all of this in a lightning fast info dump.
Yeah.
And then I stop and I'm like, Killian, was that weird?
Killian, what do you think? Was that weird?
Killian wasn't really paying attention.
Killian, you know what is weird? The low sound of growling coming from somewhere in this room. And with that, let's go to break, and let's be back at 10:15 Eastern time. Does that sound right? All right. I will see you guys 10:15 Eastern, 9:15 Central, and we'll resume from there.
I like how I hit enter on that question right before you said it.
Josh, you back? Give Josh a moment to get back. And then actually, we're waiting on Josh. I feel like why don't we just shift to the game room where the bear was growling. Okay, Josh is not back but can hear. Hi, Josh. Let's just shift to the game room real quick where the bear was growling. Killian, you're the first to hear it, but it becomes pretty clear to everyone that there's a low rumbling growl coming from somewhere in the room. Now, there's also the cabinet you've not opened, the door you've not opened on the far side of the room from where you came in. Not done much looking around. If you're tired, there's a comfy sofa against the outer wall, and then there's the big sort of table that you've not really investigated with a bunch of stuff on it.
Is it clear what direction the growl is coming from?
It's not, but you know, it could just be the wind, and you're looking at a bear, and it's making you think it's a bearish growl, but it certainly sounds.
I will look to the others and say, "Are you hearing that?"
Both Iffield and Swaros hear that. Definitely.
Oh, crap. It feels just like. Do you have food? Either of you?
You have some food that everybody has some food they brought out for the trip here and the trip back.
Yeah, I've got a bit of sort of like cured pork, like a chunk of ham or something, and we'll say, yeah, here you are. I'll hand it to you. But I think I know what you're getting at. Maybe the rich people own a dog or something, and maybe we just need to make nice.
No, that's if that bear isn't dead, we're screwed if it's hungry.
I'll hand you the meat, and I'll go over and I'll kind of smack on the bear. If I can reach its nose, I'll smack on its nose. So
Its nose has a sort of a hollow wooden sound to it, and it's not moving.
No living bear would let me do this. Growl must be coming somewhere else.
Maybe it's just me. Answaru says, I'm kind of hungry.
Help yourself. Whatever stops the growling is fine by me. I guess I'll go back to trying to start the fire.
Yeah, I don't think it takes much longer before you finally get some of the kindling burning, and it's starting to ignite a little of the damp wood, despite the dampness. Let's go back to the chapel with Hallig and Tullen. Tullen, Tullen is of course not your only friend. It's Worthington is your only friend. You've dropped the bowl on the ground and the basin on the ground, and the liquid was sort of burbling as it spilled and sort of spread out across the far side of the chapel. And you hear that movement from above you, from the second floor above you again. What are the two of you doing?
Tolan is still just kind of cursing and just kind of, damn it, I'm telling you, it's these people worship a demon or something. This just ain't right.
Helig is like worried that you're worried that you're both in danger, and I'm not sure that the pooling liquid around is really that much of a threat anymore. He's definitely mindful of it, but I think now he's more worried about what's going on above. So
what are you doing?
So
now there are. Now this is me leaving out details, so I apologize. There are two doors on the far side of this room, and then a door sort of that would lead further into the house, like back towards where your friends went to check out the ballroom. And there's two doors that seem to head towards the east wall. And then there's, of course, a door back out to the stairs.
You know, Tolan just, pretty grumpy at this point. He's just like, just find the others. What's that girl's name? Hickerfield or whatever.
I feel
calling out. Let's go find them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready to get out of here as well. So I want to be mindful of where I'm stepping because I don't want to trip again, and kind of usher as Tolan expressed his need to get out of here. I guess he'll kind of usher Tolan first.
Are you going back around the gallery and the stairs?
Yeah, I think we'll go back in the way in towards the stairs where we came from to reach them. I don't want to necessarily. It sounded like Tolan didn't want to go further in, so I'll honor that.
Tolan's going to pick the quickest path, but as long as he can try and avoid the liquid as well. But the quickest path back to them is through the front hall.
So as you guys start to turn around and move that way, the double doors to the chapel start to swing to.
They're swinging shut again?
They're swinging shut, like they're going to close you in. As you start to move towards them, they start to swing to. What do you do?
Tolan's just cursing again and picks up his pace.
Maybe you were right about the demons. Yeah, we'll just hurry up.
So are you trying to just kind of block them? Or are you trying to dart through before they close? What are you trying to do?
Go through before they close.
Helig. Yeah, Helig, why don't you roll with dexterity, please?
Okay. I get a 9.
You can barrel in before they close on you, but you're going to be cutting off Tolan, giving him a -1 forward to whatever he tries next.
Unfortunately, I'm okay with that. I mean, he would wipe the ichor all over my jacket. And it was kind of, maybe this is why I only have one friend.
You barrel through and go tumbling into the hall as the doors slam, or the doors start to slam. Tolan, what are you doing? Are you gonna let them slam on you? You
Yeah,
also
he's
don't
getting
have
a
a
little.
light. You don't have a light in here.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit worried. I mean, he had that candle, but he's probably lost it. And he's going to pretty much just try and, like, kind of grab one of the doors and try and force his way through before it can close. And, yeah, I mean, maybe he's pushing on the door, but mostly just pushing to force his body through as quickly.
Why don't you roll with strength and tell me what you get?
All right. That is a 9.
And did you include that -1? It doesn't really matter.
That's an 8. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter since that's in the same
result.
range. Yeah. Tolan, you can get closed into the room, or you can push your way through and sort of go skidding across the floor. Which one are you going to do?
Force my way through.
You force your way through. And I think as, Halleck darted out with the light, and that's when you noticed, with the light gone, you noticed the dark Icarus liquid on the floor was not only burbling, it was glowing. And you're like, where is this light coming from? And it started to take on a shape as it started to rise off the floor, and you bolt through. I'd like you to roll a die and tell me whether you hit high or low. Any die will do. Do not you want to go low because you only got 2 hit points.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, yeah. So that was a 3 out of 6.
Nice. So you have 1 as you sort of like bolt through the door. As a very beautiful woman sort of appeared, standing in sort of the pooling, burbling liquid, and reached out to you. And you notice her, which is kind of what sends you sort of tumbling forward, where you can't really into the door. You lose your footing. You clear it. I think it drags you back just an inch or 2 before you get your ankle clear. And then your face just pops hard onto the marble floor of the gallery. And you're definitely bleeding from your forehead. And you've got kind of a bruise on the right side of your face. But you're still capable of getting up and moving around. And those doors slam really loudly. And everybody in the game room area can hear it. And Tolan and Halleck are sort of in the gallery in the gallery sort of entryway area. I want to go to the kitchen where we got Nerthus and Emil, I believe. And Nerthus, you see what have to be knives spinning towards the door. What do? Emil is dutifully trying to push open.
She'll yell at him to be like, close the, and in like this cracked voice, like, close the door, almost like this pain voice where like she's gonna basically grab Emil and start pulling him backwards because.
So you're grabbing him, sort of dragging him, hoping he'll keep his hand on the door to close the door shut.
Right. Because I don't know that I'll have the time to express that there's something flying at us.
Right. Why don't you why don't you roll with strength?
Okay. That's a fail for sure. Unmodified, it's 4. So 3.
Emil, high or low?
You asking me to call it, or you want me to roll
Yeah,
something?
just call it.
Hi.
Up. So, Emil, you feel Nerthus grab your waist and pull on you as you sort of yell out, and then your foot slips and you go tumbling to the floor. And what was the total you got on that, Nerthus?
3.
Nerthus, roll a d6.
4.
Now, in Funnel World, we do not have the last gasp move. We don't use the last gasp move because until you have only one character. So Nerthus has taken 4 points of damage. And I think, Emil, Nerthus pulls on your waist. You lose control of you lose your grip on the door, and you kind of tumble down. And before you can really kind of pivot around, Emil, you feel something warm and wet on the back of your neck. And as you turn around, you see that Nerthus has a knife right through the middle of her forehead. The blood is starting to drip down over her clothes and onto you. Nerthus, any last thoughts or words about what this parting scene looks like?
You know, I was thinking of making it more dramatic, but I think that she doesn't have the time to react, and that'll make it all the more gruesome and horrifying for Emil, who probably did actually have a crush on her.
Oh man, what is the last word or that she's either mouthing or she can actually articulate before she falls over backwards? Or falls over forwards onto Emil.
Yeah, she probably just says, like, watch out, you know.
And then I think Nerthus just collapses forward onto Emil, completely lifeless, like a rag doll, and increasingly covered in blood from this head wound. Emil, what do you do?
Scream and scream and scream and flail and drop some candles and try to. I assume she fell over onto me and I'm sort of falling onto the floor, right? I'm like,
you'd already fallen onto the floor, and then all of a sudden you felt the blood drip, and then she sort of dramatically said, "Look out."
Yeah. So I'm just screaming to raise hell and trying to get out from under her.
Right before the screams start, Worthington, you're still in the ballroom by yourself, and you were really intent on finding out what was in those mirrors. Where did you go? You said you sort of went to the center of the room to sort of light your own candle.
Well, like I've got a candle on me, so I figured I lit that, and I was seeing a reflection, but I assume the person was actually there in the room.
Right.
So I kind of position myself where I'm reflecting in the mirror about in the same spot. and I'm looking for any like signs, tracks. I figure if the curtains are dusty, it's probably a dusty floor. So I'm kind of looking to see if I notice any footprints. Worthington doesn't think, a curtain doesn't just attack you. It had to be somebody. Maybe there's a secret door, a trap door or something. So that's what he's kind of trying to track this person down.
So you're standing about like the opposite the position of where you saw the person in the mirror?
Yeah. So like I should be able to look from here into the mirror and it would look like I'm in that same spot.
It does. Indeed, it does. And actually it's clearer now because the curtains have fallen down and they're not sort of partially obscuring anything. And you are indeed in that same spot. You're holding a candle. Just like, you're like you are in the world, in the mirror, you're shirtless, wearing tight pants with a leather collar around your neck. Wait, none of that is true. Except in the mirror. There's a very muscular, fair-skinned man with dark hair, wearing a very ornate sort of like a robe, standing behind you. And he picks up what looks like a writing crop and sort of like is making eye contact with you outside the mirror, looking at you. And he looks like he's about to sort of like touch the writing crop against your neck or your face or something.
I just like immediately turn around, candle in one hand, knife in the other, assuming the guy is actually there.
Are you gonna swing with that knife?
Not going to swing with it immediately, but if he makes any move towards me.
Uh-huh. So you're trying to like turn around and look scary.
Yeah.
Why don't you roll with charisma?
Looking directly in the eye. Sorry, what?
Why don't you roll with charisma?
Okay. Doesn't matter what I roll with, it's all zeros. 5, 6, 7, 8.
You turn around and you catch this man. It's almost exactly like he appears in the mirror, off guard. Like he's too close to you, and when you turn around very quickly, he has to back up, almost instinctively. Are you gonna flail out wildly with the knife at -1 forward, or are you going to bolt out of the room at +1 forward?
I think this is the person that attacked me before, so I think I'm gonna go for it. It's probably a bad idea.
Why don't you roll with strength?
And that's a nice 5. That's including the -1.
Oh man. So he sees you sort of approach him with a knife, and he gets a look of just offended disgust, and he pulls back with the writing crop, and he smacks you Why don't you roll a d4?
That is a 1.
You take 1 point of damage. And he sort of knocks you to the ground with the force of the blow. And I want to switch over to just before the screaming begins in the game room, where Effield and Swaru and Killian are. And Killian has just started a very pleasant fire. And Swaru, where are you in this room?
So I think I'm probably starting to rove around the room. So I've moved over by the cabinets because they're closed and they might have stuff in them.
They also have a lovely sort of glass front, so it's easy to see what's in them. There's several. There were decks of cards on the table. There are several nicely arranged sets of dice, sort of in like little sort of wooden boxes that are open at top. There's more darts, and there is a very large sort of wooden board with several sets of characters arranged around sort of an ornate sort of pentagram in the center. So that there's weird glyphs on the left and weird on the right, and then sort of the standard alphabet up top, and then a set of numbers and other weird glyphs down at the bottom.
So I want to kind of study the dice, like roll some of them, try and figure out if any of them are loaded, if double check, make sure they are, like they have the same symbols or numbers that are on most dice.
Why don't you roll to discern realities there?
That is, let me double check the stats. That is a 9.
Why don't you ask me one question?
What here is useful or valuable?
So when you roll one of the dice, there's the clop, 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 well balanced, just sounds lovely, just sort of rolling across and then clunking with other dice. And as you go to sort of rake it back in and pick it up, you'd swear that you heard a very, very soft, choking sob. And as you pick the die up, you feel a wetness, like a warm wetness on the die. And that you just rolled. And your hand smells faintly of salt water as you pick it back up. So just as you rolled it, just as you rolled it and picked it back up, that's when you heard sort of the like a choking, moaning, slightly single sob.
I roll more dice to see if they do the same thing or different things.
Ifield, what are you up to?
So Ifield,
sorry.
Ifield probably notices this board.
Right.
And nervousness about the Barris side. This looks like something that's really important.
Right.
And she's definitely I feel like she's probably seen, you know, at least one or two of those symbols or glyphs in pottery design. Maybe one done for ritual or magical, you know, pieces of pottery.
Right.
So like a potion jar or, you know, a cremation urn or something. Like something about it looks familiar. And she's going to try and remember what everything she can about these, like where they're used, what this could possibly, I guess, what this could have possibly been used for, or what the purpose of this thing is.
Why don't you spout some lore?
That is an 8.
So I'm going to err on the side of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It might be up to you to make it valuable, but this is definitely a spirit board, as you probably sussed out as a player. But specifically, these inscriptions are or these glyphs are used to contact people who've been condemned to the infernal realm.
Like, okay,
Either to try to get them out or to get information from them. All spirit boards are, of course, used to contact the deceased.
Mm-hmm.
There are some spirit boards that are about contacting demons, but you've only seen these glyphs used when people are trying to contact. You know, in the Roman religion, they were called the Lemures. I think my Latin is terrible.
Lemures.
Lemures. Who are, you know, the spirits who are of mean, cruel people that you still have to appease, and sometimes you need information from.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people who are in hell. These are not just the dead, you know, in the vast sort of sighing wasteland of death. These are people who have been actively sent to the realm of suffering.
She's gonna be
after
like,
death.
okay. Out loud, she's just going to be like, okay, spirit board for the damned.
Right.
I'm now worried about two things. Just talking to herself.
I think that would catch Killian's attention, though. I think he maybe was having a slice of the ham and trying to open a bottle of wine, and then here's...
And then, dude, you are the wizard guy.
Yeah, I'm about it. So I think I'd say, ooh, well, let's give it a try.
No.
Yeah.
That is the wrong thing. That's not, no.
Didn't you hear a growling?
Yes.
Just a minute ago.
Yes.
Don't you want to know what it is? We can always ask.
Are you stupid?
I'm going to try. You can join me if you want.
Now, there is only one pointer associated with the board.
So I'll sort of put my hands on it and then invite her to put her hands on it too.
I don't want this to happen. So how would I interfere? I think, like, as I'm going to go along with it for now. And I think Iffield is like going to just attempt to kiss him in the middle of it.
So,
Because that's what you do to distract someone.
Still like over toying with the dice.
Yeah, because like, oh my gosh, this is such a brilliant business opportunity.
When you roll a bunch of the dice together,
I think I'm trying a lot of different things. So yeah.
Yeah, when you roll a bunch of this, there's the sound of like a far away sound of people crying. Like it's not like coming from the dice. It's like when you do that, there's like as if it's coming from a great distance, like the sound of like a funeral or a dirge or the old style funerals that have like professional mourners where people are like being very demonstrative with their emotions.
I'm like,
but it's far, far away. It's super, super soft. And every time you put the die up, they're wet.
Uh-huh. I'm like thinking about all the different ways I can try and spin this when I sell these dice. It's like it's like the mourner's dice or the dice of the lover, the lover with the dead, her dead beloved. Like, I can make a story about this. It's the only one in the world, except for like all the other ones in my bag, but they don't need to know about that.
So you're still sort of playing with those dice, and Killian, this is your thing. So in association with Funnel World, since this is your thing, I'm going to give you +1 forward.
Oh,
and I think discerning realities is closer to what you're going to try to do than trying to spout lore. Does that sound about fair?
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, why don't you? You're going to get a +1 forward to this discern realities roll because this is your shit. I mean, you are the village amateur wizard.
All right.
You're so amateur, people pay you for this stuff.
All right, I'm rolling 2d6, and I'm adding just that +1.
Just that +1.
And it comes up 4, 5, 6.
Is this the point where you lean into kissing?
Yes.
And Iffield leans in and just plants one right on your lips as you start to shake. And what's the first question you ask? And you could use the discern reality questions as a prompt, or you can and the fire is, dude, you rocked the building of the fire. There's serious awesome fire building points going in your direction right now. But anyway, what was the first question you asked? Tell me whether you asked out loud or sort of just were concentrating on it.
I think I would have, like, when we both had our hands on the thing, closed my eyes and, said, growling, restless spirit of this room, speak to us. Tell us your name. If I had to go with like a discern realities question of what direction I'm going, I think it's
no.
Losing control here or something, right? Yeah.
So is Killian the kind of person that when it's like is spelling things out, do you spell things aloud, or are you very, very sort of perpetually reserved?
I think you might spell out loud. Sure, yeah.
All right. So I don't know if Enzwaru is paying attention right away, but the letters it goes to are C, I, N, T, I, A, and then there's a hesitant pause as it starts to just tremble in your hand, and you feel sort of kind of pleasantly warm and tingly, both of you all over, both you and Iffield, sort of SOM A. And I think that's when Enzwaru realizes you are saying aloud the letters of the two statues in his bag.
I think
much of
like,
a pause. Yeah.
Some of the way, it's like part of the way through Cynthia, and then he definitely hears all of Soma.
Right.
Like, wait, what was that first? What was that?
I assume that's when Iffield goes to plant the kiss.
Yeah, because something's happening. She's gonna try and
But also it's not a voluntary kiss. I mean, it's voluntary, but it's you really want this kiss, Iffield. It's no longer part of a plot.
Hmm.
You are feeling a strong desire to do some smooching, which, other than just being 18,
yeah.
And Killian, you lose track of the letters because all of a sudden somebody has lip locked you. And Zwara, that's when you look over. And there's a settling in the fireplace. And they're standing over by the cabinet, and you're not far away from them by that table, just rolling, checking out all these dice.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked. I randomly determined this. When all of a sudden the fireplace just explodes outward, and a burning log curls at Enzwaru. Enzwaru, what are you doing?
I'm definitely like jumping for cover behind the table.
Why don't you roll with dexterity?
Oh boy. Do I have a modifier? I do not. That is a 6.
Enzwaru, would you roll a d6?
Wait, was that? I think that rolled. Because that's a 4. Oh, that's no bueno.
Enzwaru, you are down to -1 hit point.
Ouch.
Killian and Iffield, I don't think you hear anything. Killian, you were just kissed in the middle of showing off some wizard stuff, and after building the most awesome fire in the history of fireplaces. What's going on there?
I think I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know if the same like ghostly affection that's affecting it that is also affecting me, but I'm not minding this.
You don't even realize.
But I didn't see the flaming log shoot across the room and kill a guy.
You did not. It was odd that you did not see that. It may be the strange sense of like fragrant floral perfume that's suddenly filling the air, and the odd warmth. And the popping sound of the wood in the fireplace. And I think you don't. The two of you don't even hear Emil begin to scream. Everyone else, including Hallig and Tolan and Worthington, hear this. Hallig, Tolan, what do? You had a very close scrape getting out of that chapel, and now there's screaming coming from somewhere behind the stairs and on the other side of the house.
Yeah, so...
And Emil, what's distinctive about your scream?
It's totally uncontrolled and high-pitched, just like release of fear. There's no like... There's just primal. All the sort of like... attempts at reserve, an attempt at formality, an attempt to be one better than everybody is just completely like an animal screaming.
Right. So Tolan and Hallig, what's going on there?
Hearing the scream, Tolan probably says something snarky like, "Sounds like the little lord's gone and pissed himself."
Hallig, what about you?
Hallig is he's like, where's Worthington? He's starting to worry about Worthington, and he's also picking himself up from after darting through the doorway. He's like, I'm not so sure this place isn't filled with demons.
Well, no kidding. What do you think? With my head like this, I'd say it definitely is. Where's Killian? Killian! Where are you? This is your sort of crap.
Who knows? I mean, all the hallway looks like the gallery hall looks like it did when you left it. The doors are all closed. There's no sign of anybody in the gallery. The left side doors are closed.
Just for
just the sound of Emil screaming in terror from somewhere past the stairs and down the hallway.
Tolan doesn't care about Emil. He wants Killian right now because he's like,
Hallig, what are you up to?
Yeah, I think I might go towards the screaming. Hallig will go towards the Emil screaming, knowing I think maybe that Emil and Worthington were near each other.
And Tolan, what was where are you headed to look for Killian?
I think since I would have heard Iffield earlier saying that another door is open, I'm gonna try and just crack open a door and take a quick look. If I don't see them in there, move on to the next door.
Are you looking at from where you're standing, sort of looking across over the stairs at those two doors? Are you going for the leftmost door or the rightmost door?
I guess the left. Or which way would be going deeper into the...
Both of them are going...
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I guess just left.
So that would be the one closer to the front door.
Yeah.
That one's locked. So before we figure out what you're going to do about that, I want to check in with Hallig, who's moving towards the screaming. And I think that's when you find you go down the hall and you find Emil, and Nerthus is lying on top of him, just sort of on top of him, and Emil is sort of got this woman on top of him and is screaming at the top of his lungs inarticulately. Hallig, what do you do?
Hallig probably gonna try to is gonna try to get the dead Nerthus off of Emil and maybe try to snap Emil out of it. Maybe slap him or something to get him back to his senses.
Emil, it looks like Alec's about to slap you. What do you do?
I mean, I don't know that I have it together enough to even react much, other than to say, "Look, look, look, look," and try to point it.
Yeah, like Halig, it was not clear how she had died, but now there's a knife in the middle of her forehead.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of reel back and just be like, scream expletives in the air, gods and curses. Halig is going to be where once he gathers himself, we'll probably end up asking about where's Worthington? Where did you last see him?
Worthington, you were in the middle of a fight when the screaming started. What do you do?
I think since
This man with just a robe on and a riding crop.
so I think you mentioned that each of us probably had some alcohol on us. I think I'm going to pull out a bottle of my own homemade moonshine and try and smash it on him and throw the candle at him.
Let's roll hack and slash with that.
All right. And that's a nice 4. Probably light myself on fire.
You smash sort of against his face the bottle of moonshine. It oddly breaks. Like that shouldn't work. Like heavy glass bottles don't break just because you knock them against somebody's forehead. But it smashes in your hand, and your hand begins to bleed. But his face doesn't. But now he's sort of covered in this. You smell the moonshine sort of pouring out of that bottle. And pouring over him. And that's why he very gently reaches up with a riding crop. Very gently, very smoothly, very quickly reaches up with a riding crop and sort of, before you even realize he's doing it, is guiding your hand onto himself. And he goes up like a candle, like he's like a torch, like he's covered in pitch or something. He just goes up in flame. And then as you try to back away, he just sort of reaches out and embraces you. With 1 hit point, do you want to roll to see how bad this is, or do you want to?
Sure, let's see how bad it is. That's a 4 out of 6.
You are at -3 hit points.
Woo.
Worthington. And he pulls you in and sort of wraps his burning robe around you. And I think the last thing you sense is the feel of heat, extreme heat, and the intense feel of not being able to breathe. And then Do you think you scream involuntarily, or do you think you just let him take you?
No, I mean, I probably like try and push away and whatnot, but yeah.
Emil and Halleck in the hallway, not very far from this, you hear the ballroom door just slam. And then you hear Worthington begin to scream. Tolan, you were trying to break into the game room. Why don't you roll with strength? Are you trying to break down the door? Is that correctly remembering what you were trying to do?
No, I was just trying to like crack open the door, see if anyone was in there, move on to the next one.
Yeah, it is jammed. It's not only locked.
This one's locked. Like if it feels like it's locked and it's not going anywhere without picking it or something, I'll just move on to the next door. And keep trying out Killian's name, hoping to hear back. And probably sputtering a lot of curses and whatnot as well.
So you move on to the next door, and the next door feels like it'll stick for a second, and then it just sort of pops open. And do you have your own light source at this point, or are you just kind of relying on the candelabras that are lit in the gallery?
I think he lost his candle back in the other room, so right now he's just using those candelabras.
Are you holding one, or are you just letting the light sort of from the gallery flow into the room?
Probably just letting the light flow. If he gets too far away from it, he might go back for it. But
Tolan, you open the door. And so besides A Mermaid's Tale, what three things about face or hands or hair or something like that does Tolan most easily get a crush on? Like, is it always women with dark hair, women with dark skin? Is it, the face, hair, eyes, hands sort of things? What are those things that sort of like that Tolan just sort of loses his heart? Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to project a gender there, but like of the face, hair, eyes things, what about a partner makes you sort of like swoon? Tolan. Two or three things.
I think like one of the biggest things, like he's attracted to like freckles.
Okay.
That, and then let's go with like red hair, I guess.
Awesome. So you open the door, and there's initially not much in the room. Except for a rather ornate nightstand. And you think you see that first, just because it's either carved from something white or pale, or it's painted white. So it catches the light really quickly. And then, of course, being a nightstand, it's right next to a rather sizable 4-poster bed that largely fills the room. You can't really see the paintings on the walls from the light in the gallery, but you see sort of the white tips of waves. So you think it must be some sort of seascape or something in there. and a rather beautiful woman with very fair skin and red hair and fair skin and red hair, and you think you catch freckles under the eyes, just in the candlelight. Says it is wrapped in several covers on the bed. Sort of like leans forward and says, "Who's there?"
I think he kind of like gaffs and just like, Tolan, are you the lady of the house?
Well, are you going to stand in the doorway all night long, or are you going to enter the room or leave it?
Takes a gulp and steps more into the room.
And the door just kind of swings to gently behind you.
Probably doesn't even notice.
Well, you do lose the light.
Yeah.
Halleck and
probably when he loses the light, he'll pull out one of his own candles.
Okay.
Try and light
it. Emil and Halleck, what's going on there? You were running towards the ballroom where the door had just swung to.
Yeah, I guess when we hear the screams of Worthington on the other side, I might try the door, but
it is indeed jammed and locked. Is somebody going to try to break it down?
So is Emil there as well? Are you?
You're not.
Did you gather him?
Emil, if you're not there, you're not very far away. You tell me.
Right.
I think I'd still be over by her body.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of traumatized.
Yeah, I think Helig would probably take out his hatchet and maybe take a couple swings at the door, but I don't think he's going to really be able to break through or even try to ultimately break through, because I don't think a hatchet's very effective at that kind of thing.
Depends on the door. Why don't you roll with strength?
Okay. My strength is I get a 7.
All right. Are you going to hit hard enough to damage the hatchet, or are you going to take longer to sort of put your shoulder into it and pop the door open? Slowly.
Probably take longer.
All right.
Yeah.
As soon as you crack the door, you don't see any light and you don't see any fire, but smoke does start to come out of the room.
Hmm.
And are you still holding a candelabra?
Yeah, I probably would have propped it up while I was using the hatchet or something.
Yeah, always just set it. I mean, the nice thing about them is you can always just set them straight on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess if it's smoky, I probably wouldn't enter in right away. I'll just call out for him, like Worthington, and just probably smells pretty foul.
Yeah, it is very smoky It smells repulsive. And as you look into the smoke, Alec, you see in the candlelight something not moving on the ground, kind of in front of that. And you see the smoke is pretty thick in the room. There's nothing on fire right now, and there's no embers or anything like that, but you see something unmoving on the ground. Emil, I want to check in with you.
Yeah. Emil is like staring at the body. He's been watching her for a long time, following her around, and she's looking at her now, and it's like she doesn't look like she's supposed to look. Something's wrong. And then his eyes kind of go to the knife, and it's the knife that's wrong. And so he has to take the knife out so that she'll look right again. And he kind of goes up to her and grabs hold of the knife and starts to pull it out of her head. And he remembers that it's like a flying knife. So he's going to hold it as hard as he can. He doesn't know if it's going to try to pull him somewhere or if it's going to try to do something. But he just knows that he has to get it out of her face so that she can be her again.
It slides out into your hand. It's a little slippery with blood, but you're able to get it out.
Is it pulling? Is it like?
Yeah, it's pulling. It's just sort of very, you constantly have to kind of re-get your grip because the handle is slick, but each time you do, you're able to pull it out more slightly, and then all of a sudden it's free. Hallig, you see this item on the floor, this thing that's about the size of a body. But the room is dark and smoky. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, yeah, I mean, I think upon getting to the point where he could see that it was kind of the size of a body, Hallig would probably just kind of, again, just because of the death he just saw behind him, he's probably just like, I think he's putting two together at this point and just kind of lowers his head and just turns back towards Emil and away from it all, because I don't think he can take it. Like, he's not going to be able to identify his friend but this is where Worthington was, so yeah, I think he can put 2 and 2 together.
Right. Do you go into the room, or do you close the door, leave the door open?
I'll probably just close the door. What's left of the door. Yeah, because I don't think he has the stomach for it to really do anything with what's left of him. Maybe like dropping to his knees even, and just I'm just gonna keep going. Like dropping the hatchet, okay. And just being like, maybe candelabra still in one hand, but just like hand in his hand, in his face, his face in his hand, his other hand, his free hand, and just like sobbing over what he knows happened.
Ifield and Killian, kissing is a great way to lose track of time and self and space, but the world has been very silent since this kiss started. I mean, it's been a perfect temperature, and the room smells beautiful. The air is dry and warm, which when you live on the verge of a swamp, anything being dry is just exciting. What's going on with the two of you?
So, like, I think the first moment that I get, like, a level of lucidity, I'm pushing myself away and just saying, oh, crap.
So why don't you defy danger with wisdom?
Okay, very good. Uh-oh. Oh, that's a 6.
It's a 6?
That's a 6.
Killian, what are you doing as she starts to push away from you?
I'm like, no, it's working. It's working.
And you're saying, no, wait, no, it's working. And that's when Ifield sees two things. She sees Nswaru lying behind the table with a log sort of sparking off flames and embers and everything, and that's kind of smashed into his face. And then both of you hear the growling. And it gets louder, and then you hear sort of a wet jaw motion.
I'm picturing like an escalating, oh crap, something just happened, and I actually kissed him seriously, to, oh crap, that's Nswaru and he's dead, to, oh crap,
and I think as two of you turn, the sound is definitely coming from the bear, and it's not far away. And now the bear is moving slowly towards you. And I think that's where we're going to cut for this week. Andy, I'm hoping that if you're free, definitely join next week, even if we're just put yourself on the wait list, and I'll kind of pop you into the session.
Cool, absolutely. And that would definitely make things kind of really weird.
Yeah, beautifully weird. So I would love to just get a sense of stars, but I know that people may need a quick. Does anybody need a quick bio break before we do stars, or you want to just kind of? All right. So I'm going to stop the broadcast.